Hi guys, so last week now I watched Messiah of Evil. It was recommended to me by a friend who is into old horror movies, and as a matter of coincidence, I think there have been at least two people in the comments section of my reviews recently who have also recommended this film. So all the stars in the cosmos were steering me towards watching Messiah of Evil, and I have now done it. I would describe it as an urban cannibal horror film, at least if you only gave me 5 seconds. If you gave me 10 minutes, I think my description would be somewhat different, as you're about to find out. This was directed by Gloria Katz and William Huyck, who were a husband and wife team. They worked on loads of stuff together. I was very keen to get into their filmographies because I definitely recognised the name Gloria Katz from somewhere. But it turns out I only really recognise Indiana Jones and Star Wars on her CV, where she was a writer alongside her husband. I think they were like script doctors. They'd come in and try and add a bit of charm to those films at a very late stage of the development. So you could say that they've had a really big helping hand towards some of the biggest franchises in movie history. They also directed a fair few films as well, but I don't recognise any of those. So it's entirely possible that the only reason I've heard of Gloria Katz is because maybe I've seen her name pop up in the title sequences of famous films like Indy and Star Wars, and somehow my brain has retained that information. It's weird, but I reckon that's what's happened. But anyway, Messiah of Evil. This film is about a young woman called Arletty. Strange name, but let's just go with it. One day she decides to go and see her father, who is a painter. He lives alone in a small seaside town called Point Dune, as in sand dune. But once she gets there, she realises that things are amiss. There's a scarcity of people around, and eventually Arletty realises that a lot of the town inhabitants have been turned into zombie-like cannibals due to the influence of a red moon or something like that. And once she gets to her father's house, he's completely missing. He's not there. But he has left a weird diary where he's talking about all the changes he's noticed in the town recently. So it's a good setup, and we will eventually learn whether Arletty can escape Point Dune, although I don't think they should have used the word dune like that, as in sand dune. I think they should have used the word doom, D-O-O-M. And if Gloria Katz worked on the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom movie, you would have think that she would have thought of that. This film has the biggest gap between filming and release that I've ever seen, outside of COVID anyway, I guess. So this was shot in 71, but it didn't come out until 74, and in some countries it didn't come out until 75. That is a massive gestation period. I don't get it, mainly because this is a really good film. It's not like this is Jaws the Revenge and the producers were well aware they were sat on a steaming pile of dung, so they just didn't release the movie because they were scared to. Why wouldn't you just want to get a film like Messiah of Evil out there and see what the response is? It's just weird to me. This movie, by the way, reminded me of so many popular J-horror video games that obviously wouldn't come out for many decades, but it just fascinated me how many popped into my head when I was watching this. So I instantly thought of Silent Hill when Arletty was heading towards the strange town where so many people are missing. Alan Wake came to me as well, I think mainly because of the artist father, and also Forbidden Siren because of the way that the zombie/cannibals are influenced by the sky and the moon, that kind of thing. So loads of different titles, and I have to wonder whether this film was popular in Japan maybe, and that's why it would go on to influence gaming developers, or maybe it didn't. It's just a random coincidence, I don't know. But this film only reminded me of one film, and that would be George Romero's The Crazies, which also came out in the early 70s. It just has a very similar sort of vibe within its townscape, although the zombies are very different in Romero's film, admittedly. Even the way that characters move from one location to another within Point Dune feels kind of video gamey. So every place in the town feels very isolated from all the other places. Even the main town centre is just surrounded by this dark oblivion. It just doesn't feel like there's anything there other than the main street that we're seeing. And there's also this showroom type place that we go to a couple of times. That just feels like it's in the middle of like nowhere, as if like the whole town is in purgatory or something. And these are all just random places within the town that we're seeing that aren't actually attached to a fixed map, that they could be anywhere, just mixed together and thrown at us at random. When a character leaves one point of this town to go to another point, it feels to me like they're just walking into the blackness and then teleporting to another place, and they don't even know where they're going to end up. It's got that kind of vibe, this film. It's such a weird town, especially during the nighttime scenes. There are a few scenes shot during the day. The cannibals aren't up to much, if I'm honest. Don't go into this expecting an early 70s version of Cannibal Ferox or The Green Inferno. When we see kills, the camera normally cuts away just before anything juicy is about to happen, but I'm absolutely fine by that. I'm not a gorehound. This film is a lot more about the atmosphere and just the style of this thing, because it's definitely a very arty film, and this is never more apparent than when we see the inside of Arletty's father's house, which we spend quite a bit of time in. He's got this weird wallpaper that's like black and white photos of world history but blown up to fit an entire wall, but it's all over the house. And the director wants as much of this stuff in view as possible, because it always feels like we can see the wallpaper in the background in really clear focus. But it's creepy because the occupier of the house isn't around to explain it. We're seeing it through the viewpoint of a character who's only just gone in the house for the first time. So it gives you a little bit of an unsettling feeling. You just look at this and think, who the hell would want wallpaper like this? It's just, it doesn't give you a warm, fuzzy house type feeling, if you see what I mean. And there's a bed that's hanging off the ceiling in chains. I've never seen a bed like that before in my life. It's raised off the floor, and if you lie on it, then it kind of just goes from side to side, as you would expect, given that it's got a long chain between the bed and the ceiling. But very cool, actually. I'd like to have a bed like this. I've always fancied having a waterbed, but I imagine they're quite expensive. Well, now I want a bed like this that hangs off the ceiling. I want both of those types of beds. I think I might become a bed connoisseur in my later years. I'll be doing a lot of sleeping anyway, a lot of 40 winks. There are at least 2 great death scenes in this film, both involving women, both involving instances where said women have gone off on their own into the town long after it's been established that there's something really dodgy about Point Doon. But characters in horror movies will be characters in horror movies ultimately. The first woman goes for a walk in the dark. I don't know where she's meant to be going, but she ends up getting chased, and she winds up in a supermarket, and there's cannibals coming down the various aisles, and it's a great little sequence. I really enjoyed it. But even better than that, another woman, one of her friends, goes to the cinema. Again, long after it's been established that this is a very dangerous place, but why not put that stuff to the back of your mind and go see a flick? So that's what she does, and she sits down in the cinema, and then cannibals slowly start to sit down behind her. She doesn't even notice, but the way that it's shot is very much like a scene that I remember from a horror anthology film called Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. There's a segment involving Roy Castle in Jamaica, and he's hiding in a bush, and he's just jigging along to this music with a smile on his face. And then the camera moves away, and when it cuts back, there's a native with a spear stood behind him, and you're thinking, oh shit. And then the camera moves somewhere else, and then it cuts back, and there's now 2 natives stood behind Roy Castle, but he's still jigging away, and then a 3rd native. And it's so funny. It's one of my favourite scenes ever, but Messiah of Evil pulls a similar thing, because we keep cutting back to this woman in the cinema, and every time we do, there's more and more cannibals that part their arses behind her, until there's like 40 or 50 of them, and I'm just thinking, oh shit. But even though I'm really enjoying this, and I'm sort of laughing at it, once this woman realises what's going on, and she starts running around the cinema in blind terror, that's when we get the most horrific film. The most horrific scene in the film. I've gone from laughing to being just really feeling sorry for this woman, because obviously the entrance is blocked and she can't get out, and I just really felt for this character, in all honesty. My favourite character here is undoubtedly Tom. The voice of the actor playing him sounds a lot like Telly Savalas's, in my opinion. He wears this really extravagant white suit, which is so out of place in Point Doon that it's almost funny. The fact that he's got this suit, and also he's turned up with two random women, just makes me think of Tony the Pimp from Demons. I would have loved to have seen that character in this movie. This beach resort is finished. We got to get out of here. That would have been cool, but Tom is a perfectly good character in his own right. These three steal the show for me for various reasons. The women mainly because of their death scenes, Tom because of his character, but they are very welcome additions to the movie when they turn up, and I think they actually overshadow the main character of Arletty, but I really like this overall. Don't be put off by the word cannibals. The cannibals are almost an afterthought to a large extent. A lot of this is just, it's very dreamlike. It might make you think of things like Suspiria and Inferno, although this is probably less colourful on the whole because of all the darkness, but it's an experience of a film. It really is. It's very arty, and I got a lot out of it, I've got to say. Right, it's time to get to the bag of terror so I can show you my score for Messiah of Evil. Sorry, overdid that a little bit. But anyway, let's get to the bag. Here it is. Right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half Michael Myers carving knives out of 5. I think it's been a while since we had a film that scored this heavily. So yeah, this was absolutely fab. I wouldn't mind watching it again one day. So if you're one of those people who recommended this, threw it my way, then give yourself a pat on the back, because this is exactly the sort of quality filmmaking that I'm always looking to discover for the first time. So yeah, Messiah of Evil, really cool. Right, we will leave it there for today. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back another time. Cheerio, bye-bye.